growing up, my father always had a whistle that we grew up in the country, and you could be the equivalent of 4 city blocks, which is, I don't know, half a mile, whatever, away, and you could hear this whistle from probably anywhere in the county, and it meant, get your ass home now. And no matter where we were, we heard that whistle and we hightailed it, and I suspect it was the same in a lot of your families. So thank you all for being here tonight. Really, really excited to have everybody here, so welcome. We have WOW members, we have brand new WOW members, we have friends of WOW here tonight, and we are in celebration of our first year. So round of applause. We did it. And WOW, to remind everyone, is the vision and the dream that Sherry has brought to our organization, and really putting into motion a lot of years of people's thoughts and collective. I remember having conversations with Stacy Lundberg down at the Nissan store. Hey, we should do this. And how many times we said, if all the women got together and we helped each other and we made the new people feel welcome, what else could we accomplish? And as I look at Donna Reisner and Peggy Porter in the back, and I think of all the years we've had those conversations, I'm so proud to be here and to be sharing this evening with you all. So the quick agenda, we will talk a little bit about what we've accomplished in the last year, what our 3 committees have done, what our group has done so far. We will talk about what we're going to do next year, right? What the leadership vision is going to look like for 2020. I get to be the first to say it. We're going to have 2020 vision. Yes. And, well, of course, we are also going to talk about the accomplishments with the Wichita location and how we launched that Q2. Hi, friends in Wichita. Everybody wave at the camera. Wichita is live with us tonight down there. We can't hear them screaming and cheering, but hopefully they are having a drink and enjoying the evening on there. Sherry is going to come up and talk to us and share with us, does it all mean anything, and have we moved the needle, and what's it all about? Dana is going to introduce Walser WOW's new best friend, Sonia Ungerman, and then we're going to wrap up with some other thoughts after Sonia speaks, and we'll have some Q&A and talk about how we go forward. Sound good? Okay. Yes, good. Little housekeeping. You know where the bar is, I suspect. Amber, you know where it is, right? Yeah. We're good. Perfect. There's plenty of food and beverage here, and I want to, as always, thank Dana and Alex for all the work you have put into this. It's just terrific, and we couldn't do it without you guys. You do so much for us, so thank you. I'm going to fumble between microphones and notes and clickers and computers, so bear with me on that. So here we go. This is what I've told you. We're going to have our agenda. We're going to talk about the WOW committees. So different tonight, rather than have each of the committee members stand up, the committee members are at tables, and I encourage you to spend some time with them as you want to learn more about what they do and so on and so forth. And I'm going to run through some of the accomplishments just from a time point of view. And we have a couple people that are shy, apparently. So first, we're going to start with the Business Development Committee, and Sierra and Michelle have led this committee this year. A little more about those two and their accomplishments later, but really the highlights and the big points there in the Navigator program. So if you don't know what the Navigator program is, currently we have 37 navigators who are identified. You'll see them, they're wearing a lapel pin, in most cases like the one I'm sporting tonight, in honor of them. And the concept behind navigators was really to create liaisons in the dealership and mentors in the dealership at a little bit more informal program to help correct that 90-day loss that we were having with turnover and so forth. So we're really proud of it. Sierra and Michelle have put so much work into this. We had a panel committee with a number of the navigators just a few weeks ago, and I'm proud to say that we have matured this now. It's going to become an official HR initiative for new hires, and Tori is going to be leading that, so we're excited about that. And there's also going to be employee compensation tied to it. So it really, this is the exact business case for what we want to start in committee, and we want to solve for things, and we want to bring it then to the company. Business development also had two very successful financial seminars, if you will. One was a one-day course talking about some of the basics that you need to know to get your finances in order, and the other was it was 2 tracks, but it was an 8-part series, and we had dozens of employees take part in that to get really a foundation for financial freedom and some other things going on. That's with RetireWise. Our next committee with the Personal Development Committee started with Katie Larson. Started with Katie Sanders, I think, and she became Larson during the process. And then she also became Mother Larson during the process for the second time, which meant we welcomed Angie Kruger to the committee as well as a chair. And this was really fun because we started out with a personal wellness expo. Gosh, was it in May, I think, wasn't it? And we had it at 3 locations. We had over 100 people attend, and we had dozens of vendors. And we learned different aspects about health and wellness and fitness. And it was really the first type event that we did. And it went over very well, I think. Of course, I'm proud of all of them, so maybe a little bias there. The second big event, and it was in conjunction with HR's initiatives, was the first ever Bring Your Child to Work Day. And I don't know if anyone was more excited about the looks on the little faces than Sherry, except maybe Andrew, when the first question he got at the end of the day was, how many people do you fire every day? And he said, yeah, too many. I want to fire no one. I don't, she does, yeah. So we had over 30 children attend, and it was a really neat event if you weren't there. We started with a car show. We did a marketing event. We had a foundation event where the kids actually volunteered and built things for Fraser, and just so many things. Field trips, Steve Porter led us on a field trip down to the Nissan store. Thank you, Steve, where they went through the service department and the parts department and even did pricing on vehicles. So the kids really learned a lot of things. We had a big request for the older kids to be able to be involved. So we have some ideas, and the planning for that will probably start shortly after this meeting. So we'll be on it, and exciting things. The communication series is another thing. The speaker series is another thing that the personal development group did. And we started with, was Better Angels first, Katie? We did Better Angels, and you're about to say something. Oh, yeah. We had a fireside chat with Sherry and Eric Bowles, which was terrific. And we do have an Eating Healthy program coming up on the 21st, so see Angie when you want to know more about that. So it was really terrific, and that will continue. Community outreach and volunteerism. So Donna Reisner, wow, right? This woman is like 6 women with what she gets accomplished. Project Halo Station. You guys, I assume you all heard about this, but I'm going to recap it because it is such an amazing, touching thing. And there are, on any given night, hundreds, if not thousands, of teenagers in this metro area that are without stable living conditions. Just putting it out there. And these kids don't have the basic things in life, including the ability to get a shower and shampoo their hair and have deodorant and all these things. So a lot of the schools are developing these free closets, these stations where the kids can go in with no shame, with no inspection, and take what they need. And it allows them to be able to more easily stay at a friend's home or to have, the basic things that make them feel good about themselves and keep themselves in school so they can get an education and right, Donna? Right? Fight the good fight. So I am so excited because we were able to give, about 2,300 items to this cause. And so much, in fact, that the Burnsville High School was able to start their own closet for this. And we supported Maple Grove, we supported Shakopee, and we supported Burnsville. This drive will happen again in 2020, without a doubt. But it was the first, it was the biggest, and it was very exciting. Followed up shortly after that by Oasis for Youth. Now these kids, and into their early 20s, early mid-20s, are the neediest or the poorest of the poor. They've been dealt some tough situations, and these folks need food as well as other items, and we were able to give somewhere around 13 items. A little shout out to the 3 Nissan stores, which I think did about 1,000 of those items right there. It was very exciting. Habitat for Humanity, about 20 of us were on an all-women build, and it was pretty neat. I think we learned some things about ourselves that we didn't know before. I had Marissa, was interesting, who works with me. She was so excited to be on the job site, and she said, "This is the best. I needed a day out of the office." And I said, "Well, terrific." And by about 3 o'clock, she's like, "Where is my computer?" This is hard. But it was learning and it was teamwork, and all of these things, blankets for bridging especially, these items where we've gotten together have promoted a lot of networking and a lot of conversation between the dealerships and honestly between people that would never stand side by side together in other circumstances. So it's been really neat to learn about each other and realize how many really strong, wonderful people we have in this organization. So a toy drive is coming up in Q4. I believe that'll be in conjunction with the foundation. Yeah? Yeah, good. Perfect. So just terrific. Great job. Yes. So in a very different kind of event, we sponsored 2 teams for the Tough Mudder, the long course and the short course. We had men and women of Walser participate in this. We have some great photos up there. Some people in this room, Michelle, participated. And it was interesting to watch as Sam was one of the team captains. She was emailing the team and she said, "Let's get together for a run and let's do this." And looking at the names on there, we had a man who was a technician, I think, at the reconditioning center. And we had a service manager at BGB store, and we have marketing people, and we had a salesperson at the store. And the cross-section of people that got together and worked together really just was outstanding. It was amazing. They tested themselves, they supported their teammates, and it was just such a Walser team event to have. We're super proud of them. We will do it again, by the way, so start your training now. And Alex, it won't be on the weekend you get married again next year, so you can participate, and so can Charlie. So really neat. Yeah, Charlie's in. So the team you can't see who's on the other end of the camera, it may be small in numbers, but they're mighty in power, and that's the team down in Wichita. And they got together and did, so we formed in February. They're a little different in their structure down there because of the smaller numbers. We really have one committee, much like the Drive with Pride group, so rather than have individuals. And they got together and they did a personal, really, and health wellness expo. They did a barbecue, which was a mixer for all the employees, and the feedback was just terrific. They had a great event. They have a beautiful campus, and it was very, very successful. They hosted us again in Q3. Sherry and I went down there. Dana planned a little brewery for us to be at, which was pretty neat, or Alex did. And we had a conversation about confidence, competence, and emotional intelligence. And we had feedback from every position, even friends, that each of the members brought a friend along. We had people by the end of the event that asked if they could come work for us. So that was very, very exciting. What's that? And yeah, and so we're excited about that, which is part of the reason this evening and in the events in the future, we will be inviting friends to come along. We will be inviting, sorry, vendor partners and manufacturer partners and other team members along. So it'll be just terrific. So I'm going to pass off to Sherry right now, and Sherry's going to talk about the why and what the impact is, and are we moving the needle at all. So I welcome Sherry Schultz.
Very excited. So WOW is 1. Today is WOW's birthday. November 6th, a year ago, we sat in a brewery downtown and said we were going to do this, right? And so it's 1 year today. And so you kind of look and you say how far we've come. And every time we do this, I get equally as pumped up around our growth and the things that we're trying to accomplish. Personal thanks to the GMs in the room and to Charlie as well. We've had a tremendous amount of support from Charlie and GD and Hassan and all of our general managers, Angel, who are supportive of the work that we're doing. And it isn't just by showing up here. It's by genuine, heartfelt discussions around how do we embrace inclusion in our organization. I've grown to think differently. I used to say diversity and inclusion, and lately I've thought beyond that, and I think it's about belonging, right? It's not about the differences, it's about the fact that what we most share is that we're all different. The expectations around belonging and feeling part of something bigger is what we're all about, right? So, I know if Charlie was up here, he'd tell you, in addition to all the things that we're doing about people, we're actually having our second best year ever at Walser, by the way, ever. So let's a round of applause, first of all. So, I think the heart leads the head. And I think when you connect and you are genuine and authentic and vulnerable at times, what comes from the brain and the muscle is exponentially more powerful. So for me, I think every day I'm fueled by one person or two people or a small conversation or a new hire or someone who's chosen to grace us with 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, Tori, a day, something along those lines where we hustle it. Why? I asked GD the other day, do you love Toyotas? That's not the reason. It's not the car, it's the people. So, and I think that's good whether you're a man or a woman. So that was the mission. So what we said a year ago, right, and this was our mission, to drive growth, development, and engagement of female employees while positively impacting our business results in the communities in which we operate in. So if you look back at everything that we've done, one small event in isolation, you'd go, it was cool. Bring your child to work day, a blast. Turkey Day coming up, right? Turkey Drop 2019 coming up. All these things that we've done in isolation, small, fun, impactful, engaging, but guess what? Every month we're adding to the engagement, and the ideas aren't just coming from us, they're coming from the organization back to us, and so it's collaboration. And that's where I think the unlocking of all of the ideas. Now that's around engagement, but imagine what we're doing for the business. Because if we're happy here, we're definitely happy with our customers, and so that's part of it. So what I said a year ago, as we looked at it, we compared our ability to look like the marketplace. Whether you evaluate title holding information or whether you suggest that women drive cars at the same rate that men do, or they're on the titles, or they're in our dealerships, or their share of wallet is equal, bottom line, they spend money, and they're prevalent, and also they're hired in Hennepin County at an amazing rate in all roles in retail. And so that was our premise. Our premise was we would say we're going to look like that marketplace. So, we hold ourselves accountable. So what happened? So first and foremost, I call out the fact that a year ago, and it's no surprise with the push from our general managers, we were small. And I remember conversations, many with Charlie and GMs, that said, we need more people. We cannot sell without more people. So you have an opportunity. One, we got bigger, but we also got bigger with roughly 200 more women in the organization. So that's a significant number. So not only are we bigger, but we've had 2 points of female growth. So we are roughly 22% female versus 20. However, there's a bigger story, because the bigger you get, the law of larger numbers becomes harder to maintain, right? So you're dealing on a higher base. So we have 419 females in the organization with 200 hired in 2019. Now, the growth was one part of it. What was the other part? Retaining. Yep, retention. So, and I think for me, that's the most heartfelt component of it. Inviting people into your home and making them feel welcome. Will they stay? Right? Because I've worked with the wonderful talent acquisition team, Shelby, and others for a year to suggest that they do an amazing job of bringing talent here, and the outreach, and when we're able to use events like this, attract more people. But so what? Right? So if they stay, we grow our impact. So our impact from a termination perspective, we've had 4.2 points of improvement in female turnover. Now, by the way, this is great news. So 152 terms this year, 206 last year, right? And so, by the way, every time a man or a woman leaves the organization, we stop and we go right to them and we sit and say why. Not because in every case we're going to change their mind, but we care, and we can only grow from understanding why people are leaving us. So, and I look at it in a way that I know our general managers and all of you look at it. Every person is $300,000 in gross. All right? Every person we lose isn't selling a car for us. And so in the end, we are trying to sell cars, and that's part of it. And by the way, what we know from all of you is that we want to win. This is a population of women that want to succeed. And so it would be great if engagement was the only thing, which I do believe is at the heart of it, but also, who doesn't want to do well? Who doesn't want to say this is our second best year we've ever had in the 65 years that Walser's been around? I do. I definitely do. So, by the way, our turnover's down, almost 12 points total company. So we're teetering between 39 and 40% right now. We count it every day. Every day we know exactly what we have to not lose or who we have to hold and put our arms around, right? So that you don't, right, Mary? It's my friend. I caught her in the hall. Oh, no. No. Hang with me, right? So we have to make sure that we connect and hold on to our folks. So focus area in 2019 was also to retain females in the first 90 days. We had a wicked problem initially. So we had 26% turnover this year, 32 last year. So 5 points of improvement, holding on to people. Is that good enough? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's a solid start to improved onboarding, and the Navigator program that you heard us talk about is exactly why we want to do that. So imagine if we didn't lose those 152 people and have 400, what would we have? We'd have 600, right? So that's also the same for our male partners, right? That it isn't equally as disheartening to lose anybody who gives their time and energy here. So again, when we invite people in our home, a sense of belonging, not diversity inclusion, but a sense of belonging to a bigger picture is where our goal is. So solid start in 2019. Not easy to move the needle 2 points, to move retention 4 points, and to ultimately look like the marketplace. Now here's my favorite stat. So best news ever. 5.5% improvement of female customer specialists. And that's what we wanted, right? So, yep, so that's a big deal. So 5 points of improvement for female sales force, 1.3% on service advising. So if you look at 6.8% improvement of females selling cars, that's a good deal. It's a good deal. I know we rock, but it's a good deal. Women in stores, here's my favorite stat of all time. So we took an engagement survey on September 1st through the 15th. And so my amazing team is working to cut the data and prepare it for the general manager so we can talk about how happy are we, and engagement in this survey was the intent to stay and the intent to perform. What's fascinating to me is women in the stores, right, and I specifically, we cut the stores, scored on average 0.4 points higher on the engagement survey than their male counterparts, right, and that's apples to apples. It's not a numbers game. It's not influenced by numbers. It is raw data. And by the way, Walser as a whole was 0.6 points above the benchmark for the total company. So we are happier, right? So the presence of happy sitting next to you, does it make you happy? Right? If someone sitting next to you is miserable, does it make you miserable? Yeah. So let's be happy, right? So I thought it was incredible to suggest happy people stay, happy people thrive, and happy people tend to sell cars, I guess, right? So that's what we do. So this is, I won't stand up here and get in the way of some wonderful, introspective, amazing women who also want to share her story with us. But I do want to thank you. It's been a blast. We've had an amazing journey in the first year, right? First year was a lot of self-reflection, I'm sure, for many of us. For me, I've always looked at my gender as just who I am. I've never given it much thought, per se, except when I was a kid. And it's interesting because I grew up with a dad dealer. And I remember him telling me when I was little, now he'll apologize for this today, right? You can't do that job. I want you to go in the back and do the filing. That's what I want you to do. And I remember this as a kid, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to college to be a doctor. I'm done with this. And I remember thinking, I could sell this car, and I was a kid. And now my dad is since very reformed, but he would suggest at 78 years old that the impact that seeing what we're doing, he does watch us on Facebook, 78, checking us out, liking us on Facebook, that he's learned what it's like to have women in automotive at 78, selling cars for 60 years. So, for me, when you look back at the impact that you have on business or that, your parents have had on you, no doubt we have an impact on the people around us as well. So, a lot of reflection for all of us. I couldn't be any more pumped for 2020, and I'm hopeful we can double these numbers. Right? And so that's the goal. So I thank you very much, and now I'm going to turn it back to Ellie for a little bit. Good.
I now have 2 pair of glasses up here, and by the end of the evening, there may be more, so stay tuned. These are my husband's, by the way. Everybody asks, hey, doesn't Charlie have a pair of glasses like that? And I'm like, yes, they're his. So I'm always taking his, not the other way around. So it's that time of year. We're 1 year in, and we are going to talk about leadership for 2020 for women of Walser. So we learned a lot in this first year. It's actually harder than we thought. Katie, yes? It's more rewarding than we thought. Michelle, maybe, yeah? And Donna had an interesting quote when I asked the leaders what it meant to them. And Donna said, when I left, for those of you that don't know, when we had a sales BDC for many years, Donna oversaw it, and she ran it, and she made sure everyone, including Lindsay and the whole team, and Amber, everybody had a great experience. But Donna's comment was, when I left the BDC, I thought my leadership opportunities with Walser were done, because she took a different role. And she was so excited and so proud that you all nominated her and elected her to oversee this committee so her leadership could continue. And I'm going to read how she put it. These are her words, not mine. She said, little did I know that my peers thought enough of me to entrust me to lead them through my love of serving and accept my I'm not bossy, I just know what you should be doing attitude. Stepping back and letting others shine warms my heart, restores my faith in people, and solidifies my belief that unless there is servant leadership at the top, there won't be at the bottom. And that is a lot of why we do it. This is not a paid role. This is all volunteer. This is about extra time and hours. And in 2020, we are going to expand our format a little bit. So the co-chair opportunity that we had with business development is now going to be a thing for all 3 committees. Okay? So we'll have 2 chairs. So we will be electing 2 chairs for business development, because Sierra and Michelle have both said, I've loved it, I've had a great time, but I opt not to go into the next year. Katie, who has become a mom for the 2nd time, has said, I need to be a mom. So Angie will be continuing with personal development, but we'll be adding a co-chair for Angie. And Donna will continue in community outreach, and we'll be adding a co-chair for community outreach. So we'll be following a nomination schedule, a little different. Last time we did, you could nominate others. This time we're going to ask that you self-nominate. Although, if you know someone that you feel strongly should raise their hand and might not without encouragement, you can talk to them yourselves, or you can let us know, and we'd be happy to reach out to them also. I want to make sure, by the way, when I talk about committees, that I do talk about Heather Camp in Wichita, because Heather has done so much. Dan Watkins has been very helpful also. Really, they've done so much. But Heather, you're in for another year, whether you know it or not. So those nominations will be starting today. And we'll have a nomination form. I'll show you in just a second here. The window will close on the 13th. Voting will be 14th through the 17th, and we'll announce those winners on the 18th. Get your name in. Next year at this time, you'll be electing a new president also. And if you want to be a code... no, we will, yeah. Sherry's debating. There are term limits, whether you know it or not. So if you're interested in holding a WOW leadership position, and Andrew can call you then, President WOW, email the following information to Women of Walser at walser.com. Your first and last name, your location, your job title, your time with Walser, your committee of interest, and why you feel you'd be a good fit for the position. There are a handful of requirements. Yes, Dana? We need to be a full-time salaried employee. We need to be 3 months in. Anything else? Yes? That's it. That's it. Positive attitude. Will says positive attitude. And you don't necessarily need to be a woman to be in the role, right? We started as saying Women of Walser, but we are really people of Walser. And we're excited about that, and we're excited to have some of the GMs and other men here with us tonight, so thank you for being here, right? So that is coming up, and that'll be the leadership role. Dana? Yeah?
Just raise this up here. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dana Landgreepy. I'm the manager of corporate communications for Walser, and I'm here to introduce our speaker tonight. So we have a little bit of a different format for this meeting, and for those of you who have been with us, you've seen how we've done it, and we're really excited to bring this person in. So I have just a couple of things to say about this. And you know, when it comes to the broadcast business, I do have a little bit of experience in this area, but when it comes to that business, it's not as different from the auto industry as you might think. Up front, there's what they like to call the talent. And this is an industry term in broadcasting. And the talent are the personalities that you hear on the radio and that you see on TV every day. They're reporting the stories, they're telling the facts, they're entertaining you, they're spinning that top 40 mix on your drive to work. You know, in the car business, though, we like to think that maybe our talent, the things that people tend to ooh and ah over, as the cars, you know, the latest tech, the biggest engines, the smoothest paint job you've ever seen, the metal, okay? And no doubt there is some celebrity and dazzle in these industries, especially in broadcasting. But you know, sometimes people forget that just what it takes to bring that programming to life in broadcasting. And sometimes people forget just what it takes to bring that shiny new vehicle into your driveway. Of course, what it takes are the people. Salespeople, service people, support people. Because at the end of the day, whether you're tuning in or you're taking a test drive, you cannot do either without a competent, confident person behind it. So tonight, our speaker is someone who we're truly excited to welcome, with over 30 years of sales and sales management experience in the broadcast industry. This is a person who knows the art of a sale, and she knows talent. She's someone who understands what it takes not only to grow and to sell successfully in this industry, but also who knows the value of growing others. Tonight's speaker got her start as a promotions intern and then eventually moved to a promotions director for a top 40 radio station in Minneapolis. Three years later, she made the move into sales and marketing, and she sold for different stations in the Twin Cities in this market for 12 years before eventually transitioning into sales management. Today, she serves as the general sales manager for Hubbard Broadcasting, covering the 15th largest broadcasting market right here in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. That's countrywide, 15th largest. Hubbard is home locally to radio stations that you probably know, like My Talk 107.1, KS95, Score North, plus channels 5 and 45, KSTP, KSTC TV, plus many other broadcast holdings nationwide. So our speaker is a leader in her field, and she's a leader of others. She's someone who's passionate about growing her client's business and the potential of the people supporting it. So it is my pleasure to welcome Sonia Ungerman, General Sales Manager of Hubbard Broadcasting.
So now this has to come way down, because I'm 4'11". I think I saw taller, tall to smaller, smaller, tall again. Now here we are. Well, first of all, wow, that's the word, right? Wow. I've been sitting here and listening to all of the women that spoke and thinking, wow, and that's not a mistake, that's what this is called. Excuse me, that's what this is called. I wish my mom and dad were here to hear that introduction. Wow. Again, wow. And I'm going to start this by talking about my dad, but first, I want to thank Ellie, who I've known for quite some time. I truly believe that Ellie is an incredibly talented woman with tremendous EQ. We connected and have had many meals and discussions, and she is a leader through and through. And so I thank you. I'm honored that you invited me here. I also want to thank Dana and Sherry. I don't know if you all know this, but I wasn't going to be the speaker. I was going to be here to observe and learn about what you do here. And the speaker was unable to make it, had an emergency. And
Ellie reached out, and I said, no, but, and she hung on to that but, and here I am. So, sales, 100% sales. I also want to mention, Ellie, you know, you're all part of a family, men and women, the Walser family, and I'm going to speak about eventually the Hubbard family. But I put family first. It's one of my mottos as a manager. I'll talk a little bit about that. And Ellie, I learned to put her family first this morning in Eau Claire, and was there for her father. And despite the driving this morning, got here and is here tonight. So I'm touched. So there you go. Cheers to many more years for your father. So speaking of fathers, I thought I'd start out by sharing with you my beginning in what was radio. Today it's not just radio. Today we sell radio in addition to podcast, in addition to social influencer, to podcast, and to on demand, and event sponsorship, and festivals, and the list goes on. It's far more than radio and television, and it's changed dramatically from the time I got into the business. In the beginning, I had wanted to be in sports marketing. That was the lane I wanted. I grew up a competitive figure skater. I'm the oldest of 3 daughters, and my mom and dad called me the male of the family because I'm an uber sports fan, and while my friends were out shopping, I was watching the Vikings and everybody else if they were playing. So I got my degree at the University of Minnesota. When I graduated and was trying to get into sports and having some trouble, I was a North Starlet way back when. Probably most of you don't even know what that is. But we had a team before the Wild called the North Stars. And they had a skating team, a dance line. And being this tall, I was the end and I was the whip and had to catch the end of it. So I tried, I wanted to get into sports marketing. I was not having any luck. At the time, I was told you really need to find an internship. Maybe some of you have had to do that to get into your career. And ironically, at the time that I had graduated and was looking for work, the Timberwolves had announced their beginning, which was very exciting. I had a connection there, thankfully, and he told me again, go get an internship in sports marketing, come back when we've built the Target Center, we'll talk. That was 9 months away, and my parents were like, get a job, right? So, long story short, I end up getting an internship with WLOL Radio. I decided to work for a nonprofit with the Minnesota Special Olympics, getting some experience because none of the teams had opportunity. And in the process of that, there was an event called Winterfest at the Met Center, which again, none of this exists anymore, which is really aging myself. But I met a man by the name of Dan Seaman, and Dan Seaman was the beginning of what was going to be the birth of my career, and I will tell you that I work for Dan Seaman today, and that in itself is an incredible story because he is an incredible leader. At any rate, I saw him running around working on an event. I knew my personality was not necessarily sitting behind a desk all day, that I needed to be moving around, and I was kind of enamored with what I saw him doing. And so I walked up to him and said, is there any way I could do an informational interview with you? And he said, sure. He gave me his card. I tried to call him for 2 weeks straight. I called every single day. Got no return call. And on a Saturday, 2 weeks later, I was going to go motorcycle riding with my boyfriend at the time, and my phone rang, and I was walking out the door and almost didn't get it. And I turned back around and thought, I'll answer the phone. It doesn't come up on the screen like our world today, so I didn't have any idea who it was, right? So I picked up the phone, and it was Dan. And I didn't have my questions in front of me, and I just winged it. I just spoke passionately about what I had seen him doing. I spoke passionately about what I thought I had within me. And while it was an informational interview, I asked him to consider bringing me on for no pay. Was there any way he'd give me an internship? And thankfully, he connected me with his assistant, and thus began my career in radio at WLOL. I was lucky at that time to be with a radio station that was top ranked in the market. There was never an intern in a position like the one they created for me. And I moved in, and I'm not kidding when I say I never left other than to go home to go to sleep. I connected myself to every department in the radio station, from sales to programming to marketing to research. I wanted to learn it all. And all of this was in hopes of getting a job in sports marketing, only to find at the end of that 9 months when the Timberwolves opened their doors and I got the phone call to come in and talk about sales, I was really sad because it was time for me to move on and make some money. But I'd fallen in love with the industry. And so there I was. I went to the interview. I told everybody at the radio station that I was sad, but it was time for me to make some money. And I got back to the station the next day because I'd given 2 weeks, and only to find that I had a job opportunity. And that was an incredible day. They gave me a desk back by the bathroom, and a phone book, and a draw, not a salary, a draw. So I had to make money to pay it back. But I saw it as though it were the greatest day of my life. And that's the beginning. So you heard a little bit from Dana. You know, I've been many, many places, and I'll whip through that because I'm not here necessarily to tell my story, although it's a fun story. I want to leave you with some tips that I have created and collected along the way through my journey. But I worked for WLOL for 3 years. 6 months into that job, the guy that I had called informationally came and got me and asked me to go for a ride in his light blue Prelude. And off we went, and he proceeded to tell me that they were doing a restructure, a reorg, and that they thought I was part of the future of WLOL, and they wanted to give me the marketing director position. And I was dumbfounded, blown away, and totally up for the challenge. Little did I know how hard that would be, though. I was 25. Who knows John Hines? Who knows who John Hines is? Anyone know? Again, I'm old, older. So John Hines was a big morning show host. Then he went to K102. Then he was at WCCO. Then he retired. But John Hines was a big personality, and Dan had promoted me over a gentleman who'd been there for 5 years as an assistant, and that was ugly. That made my life very difficult, and I quickly learned that it's lonely at the top. And it's not that I was at the top, but I definitely hadn't necessarily paid my dues the way traditional people do, and John made my life very miserable. And I quickly realized that I had to up my game to earn his respect. Fast forward 3 years in, and I had done that, and CJ printed an article in the newspaper, Christmas Day, breaking the news that WLOL Radio had been sold by our owner, Jeff Smulyan, so that he could buy the Seattle Mariners. And we learned in the paper that Christmas morning that we'd all lost our jobs. So thus became the next phase in my life. What was I going to do? I was the marketing director. I was out at events every day, all day, 7 days a week. I loved it. But I noticed that the salespeople were the ones that I was coming up with the ideas for, and then they were going home to their families or out drinking or whatever they were doing, and I sat at the events for hours while they made all the money. And I thought, it's not working for me. So I decided the next move would be into sales. It was hard because I came from a marketing background, aside from getting a phone book and a desk for 6 months before I got that big gig. I ended up at KLXK. Again, you probably haven't heard of it because it's long gone, but it eventually morphed into 93X. I was there for several years, and a woman by the name of Lisa Bittman, who had worked with me at WLOL, contacted me and told me that she had a great opportunity. I was pregnant with my first child. She told me that she had an opportunity for me at KS95. I went to KS95, Had an incredible couple of years there. Again, learned as I went along. And from there, it's kind of a blur, but I think it was Chancellor Broadcasting to AM/FM to what morphed into Clear Channel, today iHeart. And I'll touch on that a little bit here in telling you that consolidation affected our industry, and it's happened in, it's happened in the automotive as well, but when consolidation happened, companies could own up to 49% of a market, and so they were gobbling up radio stations, and before you knew it, Clear Channel, again iHeart, was 7 stations deep. And so as I worked for these stations in different companies, we all became one family. And I was there for 11 years, and I would tell you that 10 of those years were some of the best years in my career, by far. Unbelievably talented group of people, which is really what it comes down to, because it's the people. And we did unbelievable work for years. Over that time, I oversaw sales for KDWB, for Cities 97, for K102, for KFAN in a group effort, and I learned a ton. Had a ball. But what happened was, in consolidation, the hope was that less is more. So they started cutting people. And it was survival of the fittest. And truly, not always the fittest survived. And so it was hard. It was hard to go through a phase where one by one, we called it Black Friday every year around this time, maybe this coming Friday. Cuts happened, and painful. And the company at that time, because I want to be very careful here, I'm not here to trash iHeart by any means. They're doing great work today. But the company went through a phase at that point where less is more ended up cutting really, really, really talented people. And I started to question the culture and if it was in line with my culture, my non-negotiables, right? So after talking to my director of sales, who wasn't analytical, I'm very right brain and creative. My director of sales was very analytical. I was sitting behind a desk and I was crunching numbers constantly, and it wasn't my thing. I wanted to be out in front of the people, which I know many of you are. And I told him I've always loved this career. And by the way, I love what I do to this day, and I've been doing it for 32 years. But for the first time in my career, I wasn't loving what I was doing. And so he tried to change the position for me, and that lasted a little while. But eventually I gave my notice. There were 2 general managers at Clear Channel at the time, one of which was Dan Seaman, who I mentioned, the first person to give me my break, and then a guy by the name of Mick Anselmo. And the company, and they were partners. I mean, they were thick as thieves and did incredible business together. Unfortunately, the corporation mandated that one of them go. And Mick was number 1, Dan was number 1.5, and Dan was gone. And when Dan left, the heart of the organization, the heart of the company was gone. And again, as you hear me, think about the family you're with and what motivates you and the people. When the heart of the organization was cut out, my passion, which was dwindling, went away. And so for 6 months, I was forced in a non-compete to sit out. And I thought, well, I'll go back to the sports world. And so I started to work with Laura Day, who was with the Minnesota Twins. They were moving their broadcast into the arena, and of course had they were building Target Field, and they were going to create a position. And anyway, I was deep into that and close to taking that job with Dan Seaman as my mentor and friend, coaching me along the way. And then the land got held up by a lawsuit. And Dan ended up in a job and called me with Hubbard and called me and said, "You're not going there, you're coming with me." And I said, "I'm done with radio, I don't want to do this anymore." And he said, "Just come meet me." He told me about what was at the time FM 107, and today that's my talk. And it was an opportunity for me to be innovative and creative and not do the same old radio with music, with commercials in between. And we were writing the book on something that today is one of a kind in the entire country, a female talk station, celebrity talk and pop culture. And I will tell you, it's the most fun I've ever had in my career. Because we're innovating every day, and I get to do what I love, and I get to do it autonomously, and the people I work for respect what I do. And I will tell you, the women along the way, there was one in the beginning, I mentioned her, Lisa Bittman, who was incredibly impactful. Some funny things, though, back then, like you need to put glasses on because you can't look sexy at work. Or you need to wear nylons because they don't, I mean, like, so archaic. But back then, it existed. And she laughs about it today. But today, Ginny Hubbard Morris, which I have to make a quick mention of, Ginny, who runs the radio division, she is incredible. She has had the reputation of being a Hubbard child, and that she just inherited the radio station. And I will tell you, this woman is nothing short of amazing, incredibly smart, a risk taker. 3 years into my time at Hubbard, and I've been there 12 years now, Ginny decided to go, as she says, on a little shopping spree. Today we have 50 radio stations. Pretty powerful woman. She is recognized as the most powerful woman in radio, and has been awarded and has spoken around the country. So I am honored to be a part of her family, in her work family, that is. So, okay, I'm kind of jumping through all of my career, and that's all well and fine. I think it would be best for me to share the things that worked for me along the way, and the things that hopefully you can take away here, some of which have been mentioned. Starting with follow your passion. I believe that likely every one of you are here because you had a job opportunity and it excited you, and here you are. And so never settle for anything less. My passion, I work 5 days a week, sometimes 7, but there's a blurred line between work and play for me, because I love what I do. And so make sure that you're not compromising that. And don't get me wrong, work is still work, but when Friday comes, I can't believe it's 5 o'clock, and I'm excited to go home to my family, but I can't wait for Monday morning. And I encourage you to, if you haven't found that passion, you've got unbelievable people here. Oh my God, wow. Women that get it. I mean, unbelievably. There's not a lot like this out there, and I know it. I'm 56 years into my life. I'm 32 years into a career, an amazing career, with unbelievable stories that I won't tell today. But the investment that they're making in all of you is truly nothing short of amazing. We got that early on in Clear Channel. That went away. We get it at Hubbard every single day. They invest in their people. And I know this alone is investing in you. So if you haven't had your passion or found it, search within. Think about what your role is and how you can get passionate about it. My motto or philosophy, treat people the way you want to be treated. It's that simple. You probably heard that saying over and over again. It's so easy. And what is so miraculous is just putting a smile on your face every day. It's magnetic. People are drawn to you. And you're in an industry where you have shiny new toys. I love cars. But smiling when people walk in the door or when you're interacting with each other makes a huge difference. And I try to do that every single day. Find something you love. Again, I'm assuming you've done that. And make sure you're doing more than your job. What can you do to make your role different? What can within the realm of what you do, is there something that just has been done all the time that might be changed up, and you can go to your manager, or you being the leader can, whatever the rank or the hierarchy is, challenge what it is that goes on, and if you can change anything up. I know, I speak on behalf of myself, I'm always open to ideas. I don't pretend to have it all figured out, but I love the fact that we work as a family to figure it out, and it feels like that's exactly what's going on here. Empathy, this is a huge word for me, emotional quotient. It is, if I had to pick one of the things I'm going to talk to you about, this is the one. I have read many studies that tell you that, or that tell us, that IQ, while very important, is far less important than EQ. Does everyone know what EQ is? Emotional quotient? Okay, so it's empathy, it's understanding of people, it's listening, it's having compassion, it's getting an understanding of who you are as an employee and understanding what makes you tick, right? And so the studies say that while IQ is important in CEO positions, the ones with IQ and low empathy do not stay in their chairs long term. The ones that thrive may have lower IQ, don't get me wrong, they have intelligence, but they have higher empathy, and they make it much further down the road. And so in my world, I have 10 salespeople. On my truck, I have one guy and 9 women. And on Score North, which is our innovative AM, which AM is, oh my God, AM, what is that? We are innovating and creating a brand where the brand goes to you versus you coming to it. So you can get us on Twitter, you can get us on podcasts, you can get us on demand, you can get us, the list goes on, okay, other social media. I have all men. I have 5 guys on that team. And they're my family, and I care about them, and that isn't just a word. I genuinely care about them as though they were my work family. And I would ask you to think about who you work with and to make sure that you have empathy. It will take you a long way. Sometimes people just need to be heard, right? We have bad days. I have intuition, it's one of my strengths, and I can tell when something's going on with one of my employees. And to approach them and to ask them, listen, at the end of the day, if they're willing to share, I can help them. If they're not, then it's their problem, right? But empathy is a huge part of your success as you continue down the road of your career. Confidence. Pretty simple, but it's really a harsh reality that if you don't have it and wear it on your sleeve, you're going to be taken advantage of. And I have watched that movie over and over again with talented people. You were hired for a reason. You have strengths, which I'm going to touch on in a second. You have strengths, unique strengths to who you are and what you do, and you need to carry that with pride. If you don't believe in you, how would you expect others to do so? So make sure you carry the confidence into the dealerships every single day, because that sells. Leadership. So leadership, when I used to hear the word, was like, the head of, Charlie or Dan Seaman at Hubbard. And the reality that I've learned down the road is that every single one of you are a leader. It doesn't matter if you answer the phone, or if you are selling cars, or if you're in accounting. Every single one of you is impacting business and progress. And if you step into that role of being a leader, your job will be much more valuable to you, because you do make a difference, and you are a very important cog in the wheel, and the wheel doesn't go unless every single one of you are engaged. So leadership. Strength Finder. Has anyone taken the Strength Finder? Yeah, a few of you? So I'm going to highly recommend, actually, this book. This is the soft copy, but I highly recommend you invest in yourself. This book is called Soar with Your Strengths. The hard copy, you need the hard copy. Inside of it, there's a code. You go online and you take this fun interview that's all about you. You answer questions that are posed to you, and just you answer with the first thing that comes to mind from your gut. We all have 34 strengths, according to Gallup, an organization I have worked with extensively through my career in hiring talent. You all have strengths. We all have different strengths. No two people have the same strengths. Even if you do, the percentage of each one is different. So the way I manage with empathy is I know every single one of my salespeople and my sales assistant and everyone in the station. I know what their strengths are, and I manage them individually, because where one person is motivated with one thing, another is with another. And so it's get to know your strengths. Know what they are. Read what you, usually when you read them, you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that's me, that's me, that's me. Your 5 strengths. There are 34. Used to cost $375 to get all 34. You don't need to know what your your bottom strength is. By the way, my boss at Clear Channel, the one I left, his 34th strength was empathy, which might explain why I left. Anyway, top five. Find out what your 5 are. I know what mine are. I know that when I'm soaring with my strengths, I'm loving life. Here's the truth. You will also learn with your strengths that they are weaknesses. So my greatest strength, I'm a people person. One of my strengths is called activator. Activator means I buy into something, I'm passionate, and I go and I expect my team to just follow me even if they don't understand what I'm telling them to sell. Just go do it. And I realize I've left some of them in the desk because, they need context based on different strengths. They need different things. So once we better understand who you are, well, first you need to understand who you are. But once we know that, here's the truth. And our schools get this all wrong. We try to teach bunnies to swim, right? And fish to jump. And maybe some of you have heard this, but that's the simple reality of school. And it's messed up. Okay? If we spent more time with the people who really were strong in math and we just continued to develop that skill, imagine what would happen. Instead, we just pound on the weaknesses. We have to manage the weaknesses, but you want to soar with your strengths, and you want to make sure your manager knows what those are. Share it. Because if you're working within those, it's powerful. And to know them is it's money. A few more. Balance. It's really important to have balance in your life. I know it's a generational thing right now. Millennials speak to balance all the time. God love them, actually, for that, because years back, and again in my years of leaving Clear Channel, every single woman in management, every single one of them but 2 of us, had been laid off or quit. It wasn't female friendly. It wasn't female friendly. And eventually, the other woman with me, we had a pact. If you leave, you got to let me know. Well, the other woman left, and I was the lone woman standing. And here's the deal. Men aren't bad. There's men in the room. Thank you. Men are awesome. It's which man, right? I mean, it's man, woman. It doesn't matter. In that case, I worked with a group of men who all had kids and wives at home. It just happened to be. They were all at home. And so they worked and they worked and they worked and they worked, and they measured our value by the number of hours we put in. So when I'm getting into the elevator, and now I'm the only woman standing, and I get told by my director of sales, hey, I'll see you on email this weekend. And I'm like, okay, well, if I want to do that, that's one thing. But you're telling me? No, right? So balance. Make sure that you have balance in your life. Make sure that you're supported by strong people. It doesn't have to be a woman. I will tell you, and I think this is my close to the end. Support each other as women. In my career, coming up the ranks, women were hardest on women. The men were the ones who grew us. I'm just telling you, they were the ones that bought into our strengths. Women, because there are fewer positions for us, or had been, we fought for them, and we we pushed each other out of the way, and it's unfortunate. I believe there are good people. It's not about a woman or a man, but support your fellow women, because I think that's an area where we can really grow. Mental and physical health. Such an important thing. We're living in a time right now where you know that there's a lot of talk about mental health and physical health and again, balance. Make sure you're taking care of you. You won't be your best you at work if you're not mentally and physically healthy. So when you get up in the morning, get yourself right, and when you go to bed at night, get yourself right. And don't be so hard on yourself, because it's really our work that provides us the quality of life that we want. And if you're lucky, you work in an environment that you love it all day, and then you get to go and benefit from the life you've built. Last but not least, I'm going to end where I started. Love what you do. Life is short. If you love what you do, like I said, there'll be a blurred line. And my hope for all of you is that you continue to take advantage of this. We didn't have anything like this through my career. So anyway, questions for me, anybody? A lot of info thrown at you. No, good? All right. Go for it.
Wow, more wows. So it's been an emotional day for me. My day started with a family life or death, if you will. Turned out fabulously, by the way. Everything is terrific, and we have a lot of support, and it's all good. When Sonia talks about balance and talks about loving what we do, right? Half of us in this room, or whatever the number is, have lived this career. We have not had 50-50 balance, work life, but we've never wanted 50-50 work life, because work was life. We became what we do. We love what we do. It's not the reality for everyone. And everyone doesn't have to be a general manager. Everyone doesn't have to be the department manager. Everyone doesn't have to be the best salesperson or the top advisor to be a leader. We have to go for what we want. And if you want those things, we want you to have them, whether you're male or whether you're female. Never let someone stand between you and your success. It's your success. You can make it happen, right? You know the path, you know the way. Over the course of this year, we have talked so much about the things that we have felt were obstacles in careers. Many of those obstacles existed in our own fears. Many times we are holding ourselves back rather than someone else is holding us back. And I challenge you to think differently as we go into 2020 about how every day is a gift. Enjoy the people you're with, whether you're at work or you're at home, and be present wherever you are. Show up at work, give it all. Show up at home. Show up on the golf course, show up on the boat, show up wherever you are. I read a thing on Facebook the other day. You've all heard the "we only live once," right? You only live once. You only live once. This was a new spin. The reality is you only die once. You live every day, or at least you have the choice to live every day. And so that's the challenge. We got 1 year under our belts, guys and gals. I'm so proud of the conversations we've had, the many barriers that we're breaking down in each other, and the fact that we are challenging each other, empowering each other through conversation. We are talking about things that only existed in our brains before. Can I do the job? Can I not do the job? If I'm a guy, do I apply for the job? If I'm a woman, do I apply for the job? If you're Campbell, you apply for all the jobs. We learned that early on. Don't let your fears hold you back. So tonight, let's eat some cake, let's have some fun, and let's plan our 2020 vision, and let's celebrate. So thank you all for being here.